Hello, I'm Wisdom, and welcome to the first episode of Strugglebook Cartoons. On this channel, we'll basically be talking about all things cartoons, and on our sister channel, hosted by my friend Little Momo, we'll be talking about all things anime on Strugglebook Anime. I'll have a link down below or on screen right now. But for now, thanks for checking the channel out, and let's get on to the video. In today's video, we'll be talking about Sam and Max Freelance Police, or specifically the TV show. Sam and Max started off as a comic book series in 1987, created by Steve Purcell, and immediately gained a cult following, even getting a video game, Sam and Max Hit the Road, in 1993. Surprisingly, the game was made by LucasArts, and was critically acclaimed as one of the best CD-ROMs of the year. Even with the success of the first game, the series wouldn't see a revival until the year 2007 with Sam and Max Save the World. The team behind Sam and Max Save the World would continue to make games such as Sam and Max Beyond Time and Space in 2007, Sam and Max The Devil's Playhouse in 2010, some side games like Poker Night at the Inventory in 2010, Poker Night 2 in 2013, and even Sam and Max This Time It's Virtual as recent as 2021. But today's main focus is the 1997 TV show Sam and Max Freelance Police. The show would first air in October of 1997 on Fox Kids, but was cancelled only after one season. Even with its cancellation, it still won the Gemini Award for Best Animated Series, but I could see why it got cancelled. It was really wacky and weird, and just mixed all over the place, not following any set story until it all comes together at the end, which I found kind of weird. The complete series is on YouTube, so I'll leave a link down below for anybody who wants to go watch it after this video. The show starred Sam and Max as the two main characters, obviously, Sam being a dog detective and Max being a hyperkinetic rabbity thing, or just a rabbit. There was also other supporting characters such as Darla, or the Geek, which they introduced, I guess, to appeal to a younger audience, I think. I don't really know for certain. And also the Commissioner, who is basically the person who gave Sam and Max their tasks to do in every episode. The show isn't bad, but it's also not like the best show ever. It was very limited and held back in its jokes and writing just because it was made for a kids network. After watching the whole series on YouTube, I can tell why people didn't like it nearly as much as they thought it would be liked, just because the adult comics and video games were set towards a more mature audience, like having guns and violence and cussing inside of it, whereas the TV show is very held back in its amount of censorship and humor being taken place. Fox Network really censored this show, along with all the humor in it. There's only like a few adult jokes that I actually got to laugh at, but for the most part it's definitely directed towards a children's audience. And I'm not saying it being directed towards a children's audience makes it a bad show. It's just like something like SpongeBob did it significantly better than it did it, even though it did predate SpongeBob by 3 years about. Don't get me wrong, there isn't like unfunny adult humor in it. Like, one of the main funny things that I found funny and still remember now was the joke that Sam made about dropping the soap, which I think was way before its time anyway. I think my biggest problem with this show is that it's just like every other show that was on at the time, having a little bit of adult humor here and there, but mostly being directed for a kid's audience, unlike The Simpsons or Ren and Stimpy, which I think it would have benefited from having humor like both of those, rather than being directed more towards children like Rocko's Modern Life at the time. But besides the writing style, the animation art style was very good for its time. It was one of the first digitally inked shows out at the time, which I just found out researching this. And moving away from the animation style and art style, I think just the characters look really good, which is really good on Steve Purcell's part for designing such cool characters that have literally stood the test of time. People know who Sam and Max are, but don't know who Sam and Max are. Like, if I was to show some random person a picture of Sam and Max, they'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen those characters before, but they're not going to know what it's from, or if it's like from a comic, or from a movie, or from a TV show, or even from a video game. Also, I want to put in there, a lot of people say that Family Guy was the originator of cutaway gags. But when I say Sam and Max has done cutaway gags almost as good as Family Guy cutaway gags, I feel like they started the randomness and cutaway gags throughout their show, but since the show didn't last very long, it just didn't gain enough traction or popularity as Family Guy did. The show also had a pretty good voice acting cast, with Harvey Atkins, the voice behind King Koopa in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, and Sasquatch from the 1992 X-Men show voicing Sam, and Robert Tinkler, the voice behind Max, also voiced just a multitude of characters with the modern TV shows, including a lot of background characters for Bakugan, and the main character, Ginka, from Beyblade Metal Fusion. I feel like one of the biggest issues with the show was that it was just so fast-paced. Everything had to be done within the 11 minutes, with no part 2s or anything. And I feel like that just made everything feel so compact and rushed, which is why they just sped through everything throughout the episode. Like, I think the show would benefit from having a longer runtime, such as like a 20 to 21 minute runtime rather than having 2 miniature sections within one full episode. But that's just my opinion. And a lot of people do like the shorter runtime, similar to like how SpongeBob does it with 2 episodes in one or something like that. But with SpongeBob, they weren't trying to give out fully fleshed stories. They were just having random one-off bits that were no importance to like a big main story. Whereas with Sam and Max, they were trying to compact these big stories in some episodes into small little 11-minute sections, which would end up coming all back full circle by the last episode. So it feels like you do have to go back and rewatch some of it just to understand a part you missed because either Sam or Max was talking too fast through one of their conversations. Like, I want to reiterate though, before I move on, this show is like fucking fantastic. I actually really love this show. It's just a meh show, I guess. It's not like great in its writing. One of the reasons I like the show so much is just because I love the characters, especially Max. I love his voice actor. I think it's the best voice he's had throughout all the series, including the video games. I think the higher voice to differentiate between Sam just helps benefit it a lot more, rather than having a deep voice in most of the video games. But at the same time, I can also see where a lot of the flaws show, and why a lot of people would think it's not that great of a show. And trust me, I'd love for you guys to go and watch the show. I mean, it's all free on YouTube, so it's not like you have to actually pay anything for it. But at the same time, if you don't like it, I won't be surprised either. I'm also a sucker for detective stories, and even though it's not like a traditional dark detective noir story, it is still a detective story, and I like the way it's set up. I just think it could benefit from being a little slower paced or having a longer runtime. And that's all I'll say on the runtime. I think the show would definitely benefit from like a reboot on Adult Swim, or an HBO Max series potentially, but not like what they did with Scooby-Doo with Velma, because Velma's just bad. But that's a story for another video. But I do think that a show on HBO Max or Adult Swim would benefit the series well, and not being limited to being for children would benefit the series just tremendously, because it is meant for a more mature audience. That's what the comic was originally meant for. That's what the games are meant for still. But it's just, the show was so held back in its writing style that the people who love Sam and Max were just like, oh, it's probably the most subpar content of Sam and Max. It's not bad, but it's not nearly as good as the games or the comics. But to sum things up, would I want you to watch Sam and Max? Yes. If you don't like it, I'm also not going to be surprised. It's definitely not for everyone. Just like Family Guy's not for everyone, or The Simpsons not for everyone. It's definitely hard to follow, especially in the first few episodes where it gets that specific writing style drilled into your mind with fast-pacedness, but also a long, drawn-out story within that fast-pacedness. But I think once you take a few episodes to get into it, it gets pretty damn good by the end of the series. But it's only a season long, so when the first few episodes aren't that great, that's like a third of this whole series, which makes it really hard to actually enjoy when a third of the series is unbearable, or less bearable than the other part of the series, I should say, because it's definitely not unbearable. You can watch it. It isn't like painful to watch or anything. But I do think if you want to watch it, get through like the first 3 to 4 episodes. If you still don't like it, then I'd throw it out, act like you hate it, or just hate it. I can understand that completely. But if you do get past the 3rd or 4th episode, and you do end up starting to like it, I think finishing it out would be worth the time to put into it. Because it isn't like overbearing long to watch. It is just one season. So, worst case scenario, you end up not liking the ending. Well, you only watched a season of it. You didn't watch 5 to 10 seasons or even 13 seasons like SpongeBob or up to 20 seasons like Simpsons. Would I watch this series again? Probably not. I think I'd watch like a few scenes from here and there, or like a best Sam and Max Freelance Police compilation, because there are some funny jokes that genuinely made me laugh. But at the same time, I don't know if I could just go through the whole series again. It's not because it's bad, it's just, its writing is just a little rough, especially in the beginning. But once you get past that and you get used to it, you will start to like it, and I promise you, you will probably enjoy the series as much, if not more than I did. Would the show benefit from a reboot? Yes. Just all around, I think it would. With better writing, better voice acting, modern voice acting. I don't think the voice actors are bad. I love both of them. But I think with modern voice actors, we can make it even better with more audio quality and stuff like that. I think being on a streaming service such as HBO Max would help boost its popularity into a reboot, or potentially season 2 that follows up from the first one, or even on like a channel like Adult Swim, where it could have full range access to anything it wants to say or wants to do. Because it was heavily censored from the comics, but I feel like being on any of those, just anywhere else besides, like a kids network, would just give it its full range of access that it wants. And that's it. Well, thanks for checking out the first episode of Struggle Book Cartoons, and I hope you really enjoyed. I really do. The links will be down below for Struggle Book Anime and for the Sam and Max TV series if you are interested in either of those. And I'll see you next time.